Hi guys, and welcome to episode 14 of my vinyl and music collection. And this week we're going to be delving into my collection of live albums. And I've got quite a few of them, and I think some of them are real classics which you have all heard of. So we'll have a little chat about them. And the first one we're going to look at is Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous. Bought this album when it first came out in 1978. It kind of it was just before heavy metal really made, big inroads, but this album was picked up by the heavy metal fraternity, and you can see why Thin Lizzy were always known as a hard rock band anyway. This is a great album. It's a double album. Great gatefold sleeve with all the photographs of the gigs, and even the inners. We've got fantastic photographs. They've managed to pack the photographs in, which is great. As I said, you can sit down, enjoy the album, and just gaze at the pictures and the photographs. The album was recorded between two tours, and the tours were the Johnny the Fox tour 1976 and the Bad Reputation tour of 1977, and both tours were combined and recorded to come up with Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous. It had the classic heavy rock lineup. They'd gone now from a three-piece of Eric Bell, Brian Downey and Phil Lynott to a really heavy sounding band, and this consisted of obviously Phil Lynott on bass and lead vocals. There was a twin lead guitar now. We had Scott Gorham from the USA and Brian Robertson from Ireland, and we had Brian Downey, who was with them all the time as the drummer. This is a really hard rocking classic album, and I think, even if you're not a Thin Lizzy fan, I think you might have heard a lot of these songs, and if you are a Thin Lizzy fan, I think you're going to know everything on you. Side 1 starts off with one of their greatest songs, and that's Jailbreak. They released an album mid-70s under the name Jailbreak, which was a brilliant album. Second track is called Emerald, written by Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson, and that's another brilliant mid-tempo song, Emerald. And the name Emerald will come from the Emerald Island, where the band were based and where Phil Lynott was born and bred. Track 3 is Southbound. That's another great mid-tempo rocker again, and that was written by Phil Lynott, a great song. It finishes off with a little medley of one of their really famous songs, Rosalie and the Cowgirl song, and I do love Rosalie. It's a great rocker. It's a great sing-along, and the one thing about Thin Lizzy, they didn't lack in melodies. They wrote great songs, and Phil Lynott was a brilliant lyricist. Side 2, one of Thin Lizzy's most famous ballads, and that's called Dancing in the Moonlight, and that's written by Phil Lynott, and that's just a fantastic song. It's a fantastic song. You can't beat a good hard rocker coming up with a ballad. Track 2, Massacre, which was written by Lynott, Gorham and Downey. Track 4, another famous Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy song, and that's called Still in Love with You, and that's again a classic Thin Lizzy song. Finishes off on side 2 with Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed, and that's a great song. That's one of their all-time gig songs, and the tour was named after Johnny the Fox. We're lucky it's a double album, so we've got double pleasure. Side 3, the Cowboy song, and this was written by Phil Lynott and Brian Downey, and that's another great rocker. Track 2, probably the first ever Thin Lizzy song I'd have heard would have been this one, and that's The Boys Are Back in Town. And I'd only been maybe 12 or 13 when that was released, and still resonates very highly with me now. Track 3, another great Thin Lizzy song, and that's Don't Believe a Word. Again, that's played a lot, and I think, you know, many people will know that song. They might not know Thin Lizzy, but they'll remember Don't Believe a Word. Track 4, Warrior, and the last track on side 3 is called Are You Ready, which is written by all the band. Side 4 finishes off with quite long songs, more of a jam side, and the first track is called Suicide, written by Phil Lynott. Track 2, Sha-La-La-La, and that's written by Lynott and Downey. Track 3, Baby Drives Me Crazy, and the last track, and a lot of Lizzy fans know this song, and that's called The Rocker. A great album, a great live album, and if you guys haven't got into live albums, this is a great starting place. And I do love a bit of Thin Lizzy. And Scott Gorham has actually got Scott Gorham's Thin Lizzy, which are touring, and that's fine. My second live album, and the lead singer of this is one of my favourite all-time hard rock heavy metal singers, and he joined Black Sabbath for a little while, and that singer would have been called Ronnie James Dio. I don't think there was many that could match Ronnie James with his vocal prowess. He was incredible. He's only a little man, but what a powerhouse of a man. And I think this was his greatest swan song with Black Sabbath. This was his last album with Black Sabbath. They only did, I don't think they did more than 3 albums together. And this is called Black Sabbath Live Evil. Recorded circa 1981. A great gatefold. Lots of little pictures. And that, not a lot inside. Just plain inners. The album was recorded in Seattle, San Antonio, and Dallas. So all in America, and it's quite unusual because their lineup, it only names 3 band members, not the 4. So it consists of Tony Iommi, lead guitar, Geezer Butler, bass guitar. They are the 2 original Black Sabbaths. Ronnie Dio on vocals. They only mention the drummers and the keyboards as additional players, and a special thanks to them. And the keyboards would have been Jeff Nichols, and I think a lot of people would have heard of the drummer, and the drummer was called Vinny Appice, and he was a great heavy rock drummer. This is one of my favourite live albums. I still play it. Some great songs, and I think Ronnie James Dio does a fantastic job on them. And the tracks will be, again, it's a double album, so that's always good. And side 1 begins with E5150. It's a great kind of brooding intro for any gig. Track 2, Neon Nights. I love that song. It's a really great song. A bit later for Sabbath. It wasn't so much their later years. Their early years. NIB. That's another great song. My favourite song of side 1 is The Children of the Sea, and I'm a sucker for a slow, brooding, heavy song, and Children of the Sea is great. And it finishes on side 1 with the track Voodoo. Side 2 now is classic Black Sabbath, and side 2 begins with that dark, heavy riff song called Black Sabbath, and the famous, I think it's the B5 flattened chord, which was outlawed during the medieval times as the chord of the devil. So I love that song, Black Sabbath. Second track is called War Pigs, another legendary Black Sabbath song, and track 3, Iron Man. Now I've been learning that riff recently, and I'm going to be bringing that out maybe as a guitar tuition. So side 3, it's only got two tracks in it, so they're 2 long jammy tracks. The Mob Rules, which is again a later on song by Black Sabbath, and Heaven and Hell. That's great. That's really is a long, great jam song, and so that's just the 2 tracks on side 3. Side 4 finishes off with some brilliant numbers, and starts off with The Sign of the Southern Cross, and again, not fast heavy metal, but just great melodic rock. Track 2 is Heaven and Hell Continued, and that's like a continuation of the jam session. No live Black Sabbath album could not be without Paranoid, and it's great hearing Ronnie James Dio put his little slant on Paranoid, and he does a brilliant job. Don't get me wrong, I do love Ozzy, but if I had to go and listen to one heavy metal singer, it would be Ronnie Dio. Last but one track, Children of the Grave. Again, it's a slow, brooding, heavy metal, dark, doomy song. Finishes off with a real famous Black Sabbath track called Fluff. And this is an absolute brilliant album. The heavy metal followers picked up on this straight away, mainly for Ronnie James Dio, and obviously Tony Iommi's great riff playing on his guitar. So that's my second album, Black Sabbath, Live Evil. I think this album, Slade Alive, started the live album tradition of hard rockers. This was recorded in 1972. Charles Chandler, who was the manager at the time, thought, you know, we need to release an album which sounded like your live gigs, stomping, hand clapping, and heavy. Now this album, Slade Alive, spent 58 weeks in the charts, peaking at number 2 in the UK. Peaked at number 1 in Australia. They were huge in Australia back in the early 70s. And there's some great songs in here. It's got a great gatefold. And it's only got 6 songs on here. They kind of dragged these songs out. But anyway, the songs that have been Hear Me Calling, which is Alvin Lee and 10 Years After, which is a great jam number. It kind of builds up the momentum for the live gigs. In Like a Shot from My Gun, that's written by Slade. My favourite track in this whole album, and I still play this song in all my gigs. It wasn't written by Slade. It's called Darling Be Home Soon, written by John Sebastian of Lovin' Spoonful, and he sang this song at Woodstock. Track 4 is Know Who You Are, and this was the first song which they recorded under Polydor. It's just a great album. And side 2, Keep On Rocking, another slow into a manic jam. Track 2 of side 2 is the song that hit the charts first for them, and it was a it was made famous by Little Richard, and it's called Get Down and Get With It. And all Slade fans know that one. That's a big stomper. The last track, if you haven't heard of Slade, but if you've heard of Steppenwolf, you'd have heard of the song called Born to Be Wild. And I really think this is a Slade song. They really did make this famous. Starts off with all the police sirens, a lot of stomping, lots of background noise. It's a real big heavy finisher for any live band. It was recorded at the Command Theatre studio and mixed at the Olympic Studios in London, and consisted of obviously Noddy Holder, vocal guitar, Dave Hill, lead guitar vocals, Jim Lee bass vocals, and Don Powell on drums. And it's got lots of little quotes in here. I'll just read one or two out for you now. So we'll read out, well, what have we got here? We've got Paul McCartney, and he writes, I don't want wings to go get hoisted into the superstar bracket like the Beatles were. T-Rex and Slade can have that. Which that's a nice little quote. What have we got here? We got from the NME. The presence of Slade caused a near riot in Scotland last week. Over 30 fans were arrested. Great. They were skinheads, and when this album was released, they were just about growing their hair out from their skinhead days. And I would say Slade Alive Volume 1, and it wouldn't have been called Volume 1 because no one knows that they released five live albums, and this was the first one, and still the greatest, and in my eyes, still the greatest live rock album. We go on to another favourite of mine now, and that's Rory Gallagher live in Europe. I've been to his hometown. I've drank in his local bar down in Cork, and he's so well regarded. Obviously, we've lost Rory many years ago. Lost him as a young man, but he did leave a mark behind. And there is a quote, and there's a bit of ambiguity behind this quote. They asked Jimi Hendrix once, what's it like to be the greatest guitar player in the world? And he said, you'd better ask Rory Gallagher that question, which I thought was great. This was recorded at a few different venues. So they took the best of the songs and they put them together on this fantastic album, Rory Gallagher live in Europe. And side one, Messing with the Kid, I can tell you that was Albert King. Laudamont is another great song. I Could Have Had Religion. That comes from a Muddy Waters song called Rolling and the Tumbling. So you'd have had the Rolling and Tumbling riff going there. Track 4 on side 1 is called Pistol Slapping Blues. So these are quite long songs. So there's only 7 songs in this album, but they kind of jam them out a bit. Side 2, Going to My Hometown. That's one of my favourite songs, and that's just Rory. You can't describe how Rory played. He was just a magician. He played mandolin, dobro guitar, electric guitar. His famous Stratocaster has just been sold now, and I think it went for over £1 million. So side 2, Going to My Hometown. Second track, In Your Town, and one of his most famous songs, which he plays, and it's on, it was always on his live set or on his live albums, and that's Bullfrog Blues. It's got a nice little inner to it. There's Rory over there, and the personnel playing would have been Rory Gallagher, Wigger Campbell on drums, and Jerry McAvoy. Jerry McAvoy is still playing regularly, and he plays with a blues band up in London called 9 Below Zero, and I've seen them a couple of times. So Jerry McAvoy is a legend in his own right, and still playing now. Definitely recommend this album. And what I would recommend as well is, if you haven't seen it, there's a DVD out, and it's called Rory Gallagher Live Irish Tour 1974. It's a great documentary. You see him walking about his hometown. He's visiting music shops. He's chatting before gigs. He's playing some great music. Rory Gallagher Irish Tour 1974. And some of the tracks in here would be Walk on Coals, Tattooed Lady, Who's That Coming? Another favourite song of mine, A Million Miles Away. Oh, just incredible song. Going to My Hometown, Cradle Rock, As the Crow Flies, Hands Up, and Bullfrog Blues. I just want to throw that in. So if you ever get the chance to watch Rory Gallagher Irish Tour 1974, please watch it. It is absolutely classic. The Rolling Stones. I think this would probably be the only live album, but if I'm wrong, let me know. It's not brilliantly produced, but you get the gist of this album. It's circa 1977, and the musicians on here would have been obviously Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood, Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman, but on here as well is the main man, Billy Preston, on keyboards. Billy Preston had a stint with the Beatles at one point as well. And Ian Stewart, who was considered like the sixth member of the Rolling Stones. It's a gatefold. It's a double album, and it was recorded in the El Macomba Club in America. And I think there is a few YouTubes of that gig. It's called The Rolling Stones Love You Live, and it's got all the classic songs in here. So side one will be the intro, and then we'll have Honky Tonk Woman, If You Can't Rock and Roll, Get Off My Cloud, Happy, Hot Stuff, and Star Star. I'd never heard of that song, but that's on it. All the rest I'd heard of. Side two, one of my favourite songs, Tumbling Dice, really bluesy. Fingerprint File, You Gotta Move, classic Rolling Stones. You Can't Always Get What You Want, and again, that's the Rolling Stones. Side three, the El Macomba side, and that will consist of Mannish Boy. I can't get enough of Mannish Boy. I play so many different versions of that. Cracking Up, Little Red Rooster, the Rolling Stones' first #1 in the UK, and the managers told him, don't release that, it'll flop. It went straight to #1, so well done, Howlin' Wolf, for writing that one. Around and Around. Side four was a 1974 hit, It's Only Rock and Roll, and that would have featured Mick Taylor on the original. And I've met Mick Taylor. I actually shared a green room dressing room with him in a festival up in Skegness. He wasn't very talkative. Second track, Brown Sugar, Jumpin' Jack Flash, everyone knows that one, and finishes off with Sympathy for the Devil. That's a bit of a Marmite song for me. I've seen the documentary of them making Sympathy for the Devil, and poor old Brian Jones wasn't in the fit state at all, and that was quite sad. But this is a great album, not greatly produced. Out of all the live albums I'm going to talk about, it's left with a few rough edges, which people will enjoy. Anyway, that's the Rolling Stones, Love You Live. Led Zeppelin, the song remains the same. Is this a live album? It was recorded for a movie of that name. The song remains the same, and if you watch the movie, it's them playing live. And so I would put this little bit of ambiguity in the live genre. Brilliant album, and if you watch the documentary, their manager Pete Grant, he wasn't to be messed with. We'd be talking this guy, I think he was something about 6'3", 6'4", and 22 stone, and he gets hold of a bootlegger who was selling t-shirts in the selling area where they sell tickets, and he actually manhandled him out. He picked him up bad, and he threatened to beat him up. Anyway, Led Zeppelin, the song remains the same. Great gatefold sleeve. Lots to talk about in here, and it's basically it is a little booklet. So if I can show you, so it's just a couple of pages, and some great photographs of the show. Just got up close for you, up close and personal. And some more great pictures, photographs. I don't think it's a picture. I don't think it's a photograph of Pete Grant actually manhandling that poor bootlegger. Anyway, the songs that have been, first one, Rock and Roll, which is the classic Led Zeppelin. We all love that one. Celebration Day, another great song. The song remains the same. Now, I know that song, but it wasn't one of their, a song which would end up on like a greatest hits stuff or was on any other albums as such. The Rain song, which is great. Side 2 is just one track, and that's Dazed and Confused. And that was written by Jimmy Page when he was still with the Yardbirds. Side 3, No Quarter, I Love No Quarter, and Stairway to Heaven. So there's only 2 tracks on side 3, and side 4, if you like your drumming, you've got Moby Dick, and that's John Bonham playing a drum solo, and that lasts quite a while, but it's John Bonham, so he can get away with it. And it finishes off with an all-time classic, A Whole Lot of Love. And as you know, Led Zeppelin were Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Bonham, John Paul Jones. All of them living legends. I've been lucky enough to see Robert Plant twice, and I've never seen the other guys. I'd love to see Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page is my guitar hero. Anyway, Led Zeppelin, the song remains the same. We're going to go back to a bit of Slade, and this is Slade On Stage, and this would have been classed as Slade Alive Volume 3, and this was released on the back of basically the heavy metal fans and entourage picking up on Slade. And Slade were always a great live band. Lucky enough to see this original lineup 3 times, and I was lucky in 2011 to be the tour agent in Portugal, and I spent a lot of time with Don Powell, the drummer, and a great guy. Not sure where this was recorded, but I think they just took recording equipment to a few gigs and recorded them. Track 1, Rock and Roll Preacher, which is a great heavy rock, heavy metal song, and I loved that. You know, where Slade were just sort of mid 70s onwards, they'd fallen from grace a lot. So imagine they're coming back, and they really had a big following. When I'm dancing, I ain't fighting. Take Me Back Home would have been a Slade #1 back in the 70s. Their ballad, Every Day, and another heavy rocker, Lock Up Your Daughters. These were the hits they were having in the early 80s. The big heavy metal anthem as well, and everyone chants this song I've done. It's called We'll Bring the House Down, and that's a great heavy rocker. In Night to Remember is a blues jam, and basically it's Jim Lee taking over on this, and he's doing a jam with his bass guitar, he's doing a jam with a violin. The guy was an incredible musician. Another old classic, Goodbye to Jane. Another classic, Mama We're All Crazy Now. And they finish off with that Liverpool anthem, You'll Never Walk Alone. Written by Rodgers and Hammerstein. So, Slade On Stage. Great live album, great heavy. This is when they wanted they wanted to get the heavy metal fans behind them, and they certainly did. Black Sabbath again, and this is circa around 1976, 1977, and it's got the original lineup, which have been Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. And Bill Ward's coming back to sit behind the drums the first time, I think, in over 20 years to finish that. Finish off Black Sabbath, and when they're going to be putting like the tin hat on 50 odd years. Side 1, Tomorrow's Dream. Second track, Sweet Leaf, one of my favourite songs. Killing Yourself Live, Cornucopia, Snowblind, another famous one. Children of the Grave, I mentioned that earlier. That's a great song. Side 2 has got 3 tracks, and that's a couple of classics, War Pigs, Wicked World, and it finishes off with Paranoid. The album's called Black Sabbath Live at Last, and it's a great album, and I think it was recorded at the Rainbow in London. So the Rainbow isn't a big venue, so you can feel the atmosphere in this album, and so that was recorded live at the Rainbow London. This album, Ian Gillan, Double Trouble, and it's gatefold. And this was recorded live at Reading, and I love Gillan, and if you know anything about Ian Gillan, you know that he was probably the greatest Deep Purple singer, and I liked him. He was a bit of a screamer, but he screamed in tune, didn't he? So this was recorded at the Reading Festival in 1981, and a couple of tracks in the Rainbow in London. And as I said, we got some great photographs. We got the lyrics of the songs, and the songs will be I'll Rip Your Spine Out, Restless, Men of War, Sunbeam. Side 2, Nightmare. That's track 1. Track 2, Hadley Bop Bop. Track 3, Life Goes On. Number 4, Born to Kill. That's quite a famous Gillan song. And again, it's a double album. No Laughing in Heaven. It's one of the first Gillan songs I'd heard. No Easy Way Out. Third track is Trouble, and that's a cover of the Elvis Presley song. So That's bluesy and heavy. Side 4, Mutual Assured Destruction. I bought the EP when that first came out, and that's absolutely brilliant. Mutual Assured Destruction means nuclear war, end of the world. If You Believe Me, New Orleans, and that's the end of the album, and it consists of Gillan, McCoy, Tommy, Downs and Underwood, and they were the stalwarts of the Ian Gillan band. On the Virgin label, released in 1981, and this is Live at Reading and the Rainbow in London. Slade, Live at Reading, 1980. Now, the story behind Slade playing Reading in 1980. Now, between 1977 to 1980, Slade weren't doing very well. They were playing student unions, small nightclubs, getting in quite a lot of fights. Now, the old got beaten up badly one night in a nightclub. And by 1980, they were thinking, we're going to pack this in. No one really wants Slade anymore. They came back from America in 76, 77, and when they came back, punk had taken off. So nobody wanted that kind of big glam rock Slade song anymore. So anyway, Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz pulled out of Reading in 1980. And for some unknown reason, Slade were offered the spot. And Dave Hill did not want to do it. The other three guys, Noddy Older, Jim Lee and Don Power, were biting at it. We're going to do this. If it's our last ever gig, we are going to do Reading. And Dave Hill at this point had become a businessman, and he was using his Rolls Royce as a chauffeur-driven wedding car. Anyway, they did talk Dave Hill into doing the Reading gig, and you got to imagine Reading, the Reading Festival was bigger than Glastonbury back in the day. Everybody wanted to get to the Reading Festival. It was huge, and if you have a look there, you can actually see the crowd. The crowd was absolutely huge. If I can just get this closer to you. Anyway, Slade played Reading, and they absolutely smashed it. It's still talked about to this day as one of the most legendary shows that Slade or any band put on at the Reading Festival. They absolutely took all the years of experience. They played like if it was their last ever gig, and they absolutely smashed it. And some of the tracks in here would be side 1, Take Me Back Home, When I'm Dancing I Ain't Fighting, Wheels Ain't Coming Down, the medley, something else, Pistol Packing Mama, and it was a big jam type thing, and side 2 ends with You'll Never Walk Alone. Now, Def Leppard had to follow Slade after Slade's momentous gig. They absolutely won the crowd over. Thousands of toilet rolls were thrown out into the audience like a big football stadium. Poor old Def Leppard went on, and they got absolutely canned. They're a great band, don't get me wrong. Def Leppard, a great band. But 1980, they just weren't up to the prowess of what Slade were. They couldn't control or how to tame a crowd, and they got canned quite badly. And Joe Elliott was interviewed after, and he said, whose bright idea was it to put us on after Slade? Worst decision ever. And it's true, because I don't think there are many bands who could have done what Slade done, playing in student unions, little nightclubs for 3 years after many years of #1s and #1 albums and touring. they were on their butts, but they came out and absolutely blew Reading away. Side 2, Man We're All Crazy Now, Get Down and Get With It. And I think it's the first time ever that a Christmas song was sung in the middle of summer, but the crowd wanted it, they chanted for it, and that's the Slade classic, Merry Christmas Everybody. Come On Feel the Noise. And as I spoke earlier about that first Slade album, they finished off with Born to Be Wild. I can't say too much more about Slade. They are my favourite band. Even when they were in America and I was a young punk rocker, I was still a Slade diehard. And it was fantastic when this got released last year to think that I got a full vinyl lot of this. If you get a chance to listen to Slade on a live album with this lineup of Noddy Older, Jim Lee, Dave Hill and Don Powell, have a listen. They smashed Reading in 1980 and there were some world-class acts on there, and they took the stage because Ozzy Osbourne wasn't well enough to. There it is, Slade Alive, live at Reading. We're going to finish off with Marillion, and it's a triple album. Now, after Fish had left Marillion, after the 4 albums, I really didn't do much more with Marillion. I thought they'd gone down a different route, a different road. But then I didn't actually buy this album. It was given to me a couple of years back, and it's called Marillion Marbles in the Park. And it's a live album of a studio album they'd released. And it really is very good. I didn't know any of the songs on you, but with Marillion, they're a prog rock band, so sometimes you can just sort of melt into the music, just chill out. This is actually a triple album. So we've got a great gatefold. We've got 3 albums in here. 1, 2, 3. And it's Marillion Spectacular Live Performance at Port Zelante, the Netherlands, recorded live at the Marillion weekend. So it was a weekend of just Marillion. And so for the Marillion fans out there, I don't know much of these songs. I don't know much about them. So side 1 is The Invisible Man. Track 2 is Marbles, which I know, it's a great song. Genie. Side 2, Fantastic Place. The second track, The Only Unforgivable Thing. Last track, Marbles 2. Side 3, Ocean Cloud, Marbles 3. They're kind of pushing this on a bit, aren't they? Last track on side 3 is The Damage. Side 4, Don't Hurt Yourself, You Are Gone, Angelina. Side 5, Drilling Holes, Marbles 4. Really pushing it, yeah. Neverland, Out of This World. And side 6 is King, Sounds That Can't Be Made. So anyway, this is a live triple album of Marillion. Without Fish, it's a different lineup, and it's quite an expensive album. So if you are thinking of maybe having a little listen to this, I'd go on YouTube and check it out first. But I quite liked it, but I don't know much about the songs. I can tell you everything about the Marillion when Fish was the lead singer. But anyway, I got hold of that. It was given to me, and yes, it's been played. Not often, but it's been played. So if you are delving into a bit of Marillion and you don't want Fish as the singer, this is the one that you need. Anyway, that's the end of episode 14, and I'd like to thank you all for some lovely kind comments, and I've got some lovely friends who kind of sign in and check in on me, and they really are lovely guys. And when I say guys, I mean boys and girls. It's just it's very generic now, isn't it? So anyway, I'll see you next week for episode 15 on the 150th albums. Take care, guys. See you next week.